Thank you. Thank you, Sam. I want to thank Sam so much for having me here today. It was a really amazing thing when he invited me to come speak at this event, because at first I was immediately flattered because I haven't seen him in a really long time or talked to him in a really long time, but it was amazing that from sort of afar via Facebook, he sort of was kind of keeping track of me and I'd been keeping track of him. But after that sort of first 5 seconds of being flattered, I was immediately freaking out because I thought, what could I possibly share? I even asked him, like, what is it about me that you want to know? What am I supposed to talk about? And I immediately started getting into that place of self-doubt and negativity of like, you haven't really done anything. You're not curing cancer. You're not saving the world. So why should you be giving a TED Talk? And then I started thinking about all the amazing TED Talks I've ever seen. You know, Brene Brown, Barry Schwartz, Sheryl Sandberg. I mean, all these people I look up to and these incredible inspirational talks and things that they're doing in the world. And I thought, how could I absolutely compare? And then, of course, I started telling my friends, hey, I've been invited to a TED Talk. This is kind of cool. And they're like, that's amazing. Oh, my God, you're going to become a YouTube sensation. And I thought, oh, God, here comes the pressure. And then I just remembered, come on. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done. You can never top a sneezing baby panda. Nobody can. 214 million views on YouTube, and it's 16 seconds that will change your life. If you haven't seen it yet, go Google it, and you'll just, the rest of the day will be just so happy. So once I got through that self-doubt, and I had to think about all my coaching clients and all the people I help with their businesses and in their careers. And I always have to give people pep talks because they always have that self-doubt. They always come to me saying, oh, why should I be doing this? Am I really an expert? Should people really listen to me? And I always have to remind people that, yeah, absolutely you should be doing this. Everybody has a story to share. Everybody's got a unique talent or skill, and you are doing a disservice to the rest of us if you aren't sharing it and you aren't putting that out in the world in some way. And so I had to give myself a little pep talk. I'm like, Brooke, you've got something to share. You've got something to share. You may not be as good as a sneezing baby panda, but you've got something to share. And so then the next thing, the obvious, next step, I'm a millennial, so I started to do some research. So I went to the first logical place that any research project should begin, and so I went to Facebook. And so I asked my friends, okay, you guys know me best. What should I talk about? What should I share that will hopefully inspire people to take action in their lives in some way? Because ideas are great. Dreams are wonderful. But they're nothing without action and execution. So I want all of you to walk out of this room at some point and say, okay, how can I enact this in my life in some way? So I asked a bunch of people, and they gave me a lot of great ideas, and knowing my history, knowing my story, and some people suggested maybe talk about being a world traveler. You've traveled all over the world. You've seen so many different places, so many different experiences. Talk about what you've learned from that. And I absolutely could probably talk for 19 days about that. And then they said, talk about career success. You've achieved a lot in your career and professional growth and development. Talk about how to achieve those things in your career, whatever career path you choose. And then people suggested maybe female entrepreneurship. And this is sort of my addiction right now. I'm all about reading about female entrepreneurs and how they grew their businesses and things like that. It's a topic that I could go on and on about. I could cite stats like how 50% of all privately held companies in the United States are women-owned, but 75% of those women-owned businesses never gross more than $50,000 a year in revenue. And that's a ridiculously sad stat. And my goal in life is to bust that stat out of the water, and I want to build $1 million company, and I want to help other women do the same. So I could talk about female entrepreneurship, obviously. And then I could talk about the power of yoga. I run a yoga company, a yoga travel company called Yoga Travel Tree, and I could talk about the power of yoga in my life and how it's helped my mindset, the way I think, the way I'm bendy or flexy, all these different things it's helped me with. I could talk about the power of yoga. I talk about rags to riches. I grew up in a poor farm community in rural Kansas, and I could talk about then going out to travel the world and being an executive in the travel industry. And then I could talk about launching a company and the trials and tribulations of running a startup. But then I realized one really important theme started percolating from all of this. And it was that none of this matters, and none of it would have been possible if at that very important junctions of my life, I hadn't said yes to those opportunities. And so that's the message I want to share with you guys today, and then hopefully inspire you to take action and say yes when opportunity arises. So I think there are yes people and no people in the world. I think it's kind of ingrained in our character, but I think we all have the ability to create a discipline for saying yes and to get yourself in a mindset, in a frame of mind, and a paradigm, if you will, of always thinking of ways to say yes. Yes, people are wonderful. They say, yeah, let's try that. Yeah, it's going to be hard. They say, how? How can we make this happen? No people are saying, no, that will never work. No, it's too expensive. The timing's not right. Nothing's okay. No, no, no. And they shy away from these opportunities. So are you a yes person or a no person? Hopefully by the end of this, you will all be yes people and we don't have to worry about it. So I think there are three main resistance points when people are faced with opportunities in their lives. That something's unpopular, they don't think they're ready, and they're scared to fail. So I'm going to touch on each of these resistance points with stories from my own life. So I want you to say yes even if it's unpopular. Let me paint a picture for you. I grew up in rural Kansas. Not Kansas City, not some glassy suburb of Kansas City, Kansas. Actual real Kansas. Cows, pastures, as far as the eye can see, Kansas. If you've seen The Wizard of Oz, the black and white part, that's me, okay? That's where I grew up. So I grew up in a really small family with a really small income. We had a lot of love and laughter in our home, but not a lot of money. I didn't come from very well-educated parents or grandparents. We didn't travel the world. Traveling to Kansas City was a vacation. So I didn't have a lot of inspiration and a lot of examples around me to show me that there was this journey ahead, this place beyond the pasture. And, you know, in Southeast Kansas, where I grew up, and a lot of places in America, there's only really two things that are important when you're in high school. It's Friday night sports and the boys who play them, right? So those were the focus of my life, you know, maybe some academics over here, you know, working a part-time job over there, but that's really what the focus of life is. So I didn't have that inspiration because nobody left, and if they did, they never came back. So I didn't get to hear the tales of their adventures, the tales of their triumphs. And so that's my world. That's the picture I want to set for you. So I had no inspiration until one day. My teacher came into Spanish class and she said, I'm going to take some students to Europe this summer, and we're going to travel around France and Spain for 2 weeks. Come along, here's a flyer, ask your parents, see what happens. And in that moment, something spoke to me, and I knew I was destined to be on that trip. It was going to cost $900, which to me in my world, that might have well been $9 million, but I was going to hustle and make that happen. So I worked a part-time job, I was doing extra chores, I was doing tons of fundraisers. If you met me in Parsons, Kansas, you were probably asked, please buy a t-shirt. And so I was hustling, trying to make this happen, and I was still coming up short. Until one day my mom comes into the house, grim look on her face, and she says, Grandpa has crashed into your car with the tractor? Yeah, I'm that country. A tractor ran into my car. And so we go out, we assess the damage, there's this big dent in the door. The door still works. It's hideous, but it still works, thank goodness. But I'm just thinking, I got to get this fixed. How am I going to pay for this? This is terrible. And my European hopes and dreams were dashed. Until about a month later, I get a check in the mail from the insurance company for just over $900. And you bet your ass I used that check to send myself to Europe. And the reason I tell you that story first, and it's probably the most important of my life, and the most important yes I ever gave in my life, is because that experience, that yes, laid the foundation and the framework for the rest of my life. It molded who I would become and what I could achieve. So I want to encourage you that on the other side of any yes might be the adventure of a lifetime. So don't shy away from it. Say yes, even if it's unpopular. Say yes, even if they won't let you sit with them, right? So the mean girls, everybody's got these resistance points in their lives. So say yes, even if you're going to have some resistance from the world around you. Because a lot of people in Kansas thought it was cool to go abroad, but I did it anyway. You will never influence the world by trying to be like it. I'm totally the black sheep in my family, and I'm okay with that. So the next resistance point is that you don't say yes because you think you're not ready. And everybody has these moments in their life. Well, circumstances aren't right, the timing's not ready, I need a little bit more experience, it's just not right, I'm not ready. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the jig is up. You're never going to be perfectly ready for any experience that comes up in your life. So you just got to say yes and work with it. And go with my motto, GTS, Google that shit, even if you don't know how to do it. So an example from my own life. Oh, sorry. Here's no TED Talk is good without a Gandhi quote. So strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. And so what I will say to you is that in my experience, so I left Southeast Kansas, went to college in Boston, traveled the world, blah, blah, blah. Look me up on LinkedIn. You can see it all. And I did a lot of things. So I was working this job in Boston, and I loved it. I was building internship programs in Europe for college students all across the United States. And then I went and traveled the world on a ship with 700 college students, visiting 12 countries in 5 months. Great experience. See, got to keep saying yes over and over again. But that's not the story I want to tell. When I came back from that experience traveling around the world, I was looking for a job. And I was applying to jobs all over the country and all over the world. But one job really stuck out to me, and I was really excited about it. And it was at the University of South Dakota. Sexy, right? South Dakota. Everybody's dream location. But the location didn't bother me. I had friends living in huts in Nepal and the Peace Corps. I thought I can probably handle South Dakota. It'll be okay. But what excited me about this job was that I was going to get to build something from the foundation. They didn't have a study abroad office yet. They had never had any kind of infrastructure to support people wanting to travel abroad. And I was going to get to create it. I was going to get to help South Dakota farm kids just like me travel the world. That job was meant for me. It was mine. I knew it. It had to be mine, except for one little problem. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was not qualified for that job. I had never done that work yet, and so I felt really inadequate, that I wasn't ready. I needed maybe one job before I took that job. Well, when miraculously they offered me that gig, I said yes, as you do. You just, GTS, Google that shit. And so I said yes, and was it easy? Absolutely not. I hustled every day. I had to work late nights, do tons of research. I had people on speed dial to ask questions to all the time, and I had to work really hard at it. So no, it's not always going to be easy when you say yes. You're not just going to roses and sunshine every day of your life. You're going to have to work hard. But don't say no because you think you're not ready. Say yes anyway, and then figure it out along the way. Okay, that's my inspirational resistance point, that I want you to get past that and still say yes, even if you think you're not ready. The third resistance point that a lot of people come up with, and this is a big one, is that you think you might fail. Well, here's a secret. We all fail. We're all big, fat failures all the time. Little failures, big failures. I practice yoga, right? Yoga is one of those great things that puts your ego in check, because every day you're going to fail at something in your yoga practice. And here's a great example. I'm the one on the right, okay? So this is a pose called Firefly. She's clearly nailing it. And this is a really advanced posture. It takes a lot of physical strength, concentration, and focus to be able to nail something like this. This takes years of practice. And I've been practicing for a long time, but I clearly don't got it down just yet. I'm failing, but I'm still growing and learning from those failures. So don't be afraid of saying yes, because you might have a failure on the other end. You're still going to grow from it. You're still going to learn from it. And it could be the adventure of a lifetime. So a recent example from my life is that I left my job as senior vice president of a very successful company in the youth travel industry. And I spent my time there building up that company. I doubled our revenue. I grew our staff and our team. I was running 2 offices across 2 continents. And it was a really great success for me. And I'm very proud of the work I did there. But I knew I was ready for something more. I knew I was ready to start my own company. So I wasn't worried about, I'm not ready. I knew I was ready. I had those skills. I had that know-how. And I wasn't worried about it being unpopular, because my friends, my peers, my mentors all said, you are ready for this. You've got what it takes. You should go for it. And after raising some capital and from investors, I decided I'm doing it. And I resigned from my position, and I launched my own company. And it's a struggle every day. It's a fight every day. And every day I'm working on my company, I have to choose to say yes every single moment and say, this is totally worth it. And it absolutely is, even though I know that most companies fail, most startups fail, and that's okay. And it's okay if I fail. It'll suck, but it's okay if I fail. It's okay if I fail, because I said yes, and it's a great adventure, and I'm learning so much. So please, 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 don't be afraid of failure, that big, hairy beast of failure, and prevent yourself from saying yes. A better, more eloquent way to say that is that we are all failures. At least the best of us are. So if you're not failing every damn day of your life in some way, you are not trying hard enough. You need to work at it. You need to be putting yourself out there, because if you're not failing, you're not living and you're not growing. So my challenge for you guys today, after thinking about what I should talk about, is that I hope you're inspired to say yes when opportunity arises. and you decide today that you are a yes person, you're going to cultivate that attitude and mindset in your life. Because just like me and that trip to Europe, that one fateful summer, my sophomore year in high school, it could be the adventure of a lifetime, and it could map out the course for the rest of your life. So say yes. Thank you.